Imagine standing on the shores of your hometown, looking at the place where you played football as a child that is now submerged under seawater. That is the reality for Melvin, who lives on Nyangai Island, just off the coast of Sierra Leone. In just 10 years, his island has shrunk dramatically from 700 meters in length to barely 90 as rising sea levels and intensifying storms have reshaped the coastline. Despite this devastating change, Melvin and his community are determined to stay on their shrinking island. But climate change unfairly impacting those who have contributed least will likely leave them no choice but to move, joining millions across Africa whose homes will soon be underwater. Today's episode, like many of our previous episodes, will deal with the topic of climate change, and we will think about how early action can prevent suffering as well as save billions. And we will together hope to find ways to save communities like that of Melvin's. Welcome to Sustainability Forward. I'm your host, Rishi. With me is my co-host, as always, Carmine.
Thank you, Rishi, and great to be on the show today. And thank you for the introduction. I also read the story that you mentioned, and one thing that really struck my attention is while the African overall it contributes for the very little about emissions. They're talking about 3% of global carbon dioxide. As you said, is very impacted. And the other data that really impressed me is about the adoption cost. And the more we delay, the more will be expensive. And there is this study about from the World Bank saying that every dollar invested in infrastructure saves $4 in reconstruction cost.
Wow.
So affecting adoption is really, really important here.
Absolutely. So, Carmine, it looks like we have a super cool episode on our hands today.
Yes.
Will you
Yes,
tell
yeah.
us why?
Yes, actually, I'm very excited to have a lazy environmentalist here today. So we have Josh Dorfman here, that is a climate entrepreneur, author, and media personality. Josh is the CEO and host of Supercool, a media platform spotlighting real-world climate solutions. Previously, he co-founded Plantd, a carbon-negative building materials company recognized by Fast Company as one of the world's most innovative companies in 2024. Josh has launched multiple sustainable ventures, led Wine.com for Amazon, and served as CEO of The Collider, a climate innovation center. He also created the Lazy Environmentalist, which became a TV series on the Sundance Channel, a radio show on SiriusXM, and 2 books. His work has been featured in the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, and the Fast Company, and he has made appearances on NPR, MSNBC, the Fox News, and famously rode a bike onto the Martha Stewart show. Josh holds an MBA from Vanderbilt and MBA from the University of Pennsylvania. So, Josh, very exciting. I'm very excited. So, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for that very warm welcome. It's a pleasure to speak with both of you.
Excellent. Josh, we want to start by looking a little bit about on your career background, from being a media personality to a climate entrepreneur. So if you could walk our audience through your journey, but more importantly, what motivated you to take these steps along your career?
Yeah, absolutely. The journey for me started in the 1990s, so probably going back almost, not quite, but almost 30 years. When I was about a year out of university, I decided to go to China, and I was teaching and working in Nanjing, China, teaching on a university, and subsequently working in a bicycle lock factory for an American company called Kryptonite that had just moved its manufacturing from to Asia, first to Taiwan, and then on to the mainland. And so I went to work for Kryptonite. I was very excited to learn as much as I possibly could about China, thinking about I'd have a career one day, maybe in foreign service. And so I was exploring all facets of the culture, and I got really fascinated by the business side. It was like it's just so exciting to see all the growth. And at the time, there were 1 billion people riding bicycles. Everybody had a bike in China. And we had the best bike lock, quote unquote, in the world. It seemed like a great opportunity. And it was an incredible learning experience. What I realized 2 years into that experience was that while there were 1 billion people there riding bikes, no one actually wanted a bike. Everybody wanted a car. And you
Yeah.
could see the highways and the tunnels and the bridges, all that infrastructure being built so fast. In that moment, I thought, well, geez, I don't know anything about global warming. I wasn't raised as an environmentalist. These are not issues that are particularly pertinent to me. But this is going to be a problem, probably on many levels. To how do we enable? What do you do when China gets 1 billion cars, and what do you do when India's population turns to automobiles in Eastern Europe? And I came back to the States eventually after that experience. I went to business school. You mentioned Thunderbird. And I just, was thinking about, okay, what business career am I going to have? But I couldn't shake this feeling like I had seen the future when I was in China and how we deal with climate change in a way that enables our society to continue to thrive. I felt like was going to be the biggest challenge facing all of us in the 21st century. It's motivated my entire career. I can't really imagine anything bigger or more important to be part of.
Mm, interesting. Couple of clarifications, Josh. Name of the company is Kryptonite,
Correct. It was
as in
Kryptonite
Superman
by
and
Glotz.
Kryptonite?
That's right. That's
Wow.
right. It had quite a following. It got started in the 1970s. The two brothers, the Zane brothers, and it was for a very long time. It was a very popular brand in the States and in Europe. It was subsequently acquired by another company, and others have kind of moved into the market. But yeah, it was Kryptonite. I was working for Kryptonite in
Okay.
China.
And back in the US, so what timeline are we talking about? When did you come back to the US from China?
I came back, so I was there for a couple of years. I came back in 1997, went to business
Okay.
school in 1998.
Just out of curiosity, what was the environment? So I went to a US business school as well, but in 1997, what was the atmosphere in US business schools? Because when I went, it was all about tech.
Yeah, well, of course, that was the tech was increasing. Well, I should say this. In 1998, the school that I went to, Thunderbird, is in Arizona. At the time, it was on an Air Force base called Thunderbird, and it was started after World War II by an admiral who felt that with the Marshall Plan and with the rebuilding of Japan and how the US was going to go engage proactively with the world, it was going to be very important to have American executives who not only were facile with business, but had language skills and cross-cultural communication skills. So Thunderbird itself is like a mini United Nations. It's still considered one of the best global business schools in America and awesome on international trade. So it was like, people from all over the world, but we're in like a corner of Arizona where if you stepped off campus, it was distinctly like not international. It was like every fast food franchise you can imagine. But if you're on campus, it was incredibly dynamic. It was just a wonderful experience.
Amazing.
Probably, Josh, based on that experience from China, when you saw things being built so quickly at a scale, probably this is also what triggered your idea on carbon negative building solutions. Can you tell a little
There's
bit more about that? First of all, what it is?
Yeah, I appreciate the link, Carmen. There may be something there that is unexplored. I may have to think about that more. Um, But certainly thinking about scale, yes, when you see the magnitude of construction and everything in China over the last 3 decades, for sure, it has to create an impact or yeah, it's something probably subconscious. Planted came about, so this is the carbon negative building materials company, that came about 4 years ago. So 2021, right around this time, March, April 2021, we started conceiving of this business and went very quickly. And it came about because I had started a modern design, sustainable furniture company. I was living in North Carolina. Historically, North Carolina has been it's kind of the center of furniture manufacturing in the United States. And so I got to thinking maybe I could build a manufacturing company for eco-friendly furniture, use, Forest Stewardship Council certified wood, localized manufacturing, really beautiful design, hit a good price point. I was excited about it. Then the pandemic hit, and then I couldn't get material. And when I could finally get this material, this plywood we were using, the price was going through the roof and the quality was going through the floor. I mean, just terrible quality. And I started thinking, you know what, there has to be something better. There's got to be a better material for the planet than just cutting down trees to make a table. That's what I was thinking at the time. In that moment, I was connected to another entrepreneur in North Carolina. He had just moved there. He was actually starting his first company. It was a manufacturing company, building products out of wood. And we got to talking, and so he said to me, wow, you're going to build this great company. It's going to be so exciting. I said, you know what? I don't think it's going to be so exciting. I'm thinking about materials a lot. I'd like to come up with something that grows faster than trees, that we could pull carbon from the atmosphere, have a more sustainable product. And he said to me, well, that's interesting. I've got 6 giant trash bags of industrial hemp in my garage. And so I said, wait. Okay, who are you? What's your background? And then he said, well, I just moved here. I spent 8 years at SpaceX. I was leading the life support, and team for the Dragon Crew spacecraft to keep astronauts alive on the spacecraft at SpaceX. And now I'm doing this thing. And I said, oh my God, you're in North Carolina now. Listen, I'm gonna close my company. I think you should do the same. Let's go build a materials company. And he was really on the same page, thinking, yeah, could we pull more carbon from the atmosphere faster? Could we turn it into something useful and durable if we could figure out what would be that thing, that feedstock, that biomass? That's how Plantd was born. We got another co-founder, Nathan, to join us from SpaceX. We got more SpaceXers moving to North Carolina. We built an awesome team. And I'll say one more thing and then I'll pause. But the basic premise of Plantd is identify something that grows much faster than trees. So we identified a grass similar to bamboo. It's not bamboo, but similar, if you can imagine, or if you've seen how tall and how fast bamboo can grow, so can our grass. Then we said, okay, this grass has the right structural properties. If you slice it into a very thin veneer and press it, you can get something very strong. That's awesome. Let's go build a machine that can do that, that could take this grass and turn it into something durable where you could build a building out of it, like a plywood or something for a wall or a roof or a floor. But let's build an entirely new factory that's never been built before, that has no smokestack on the top, right? So we're not burning, we're not creating heat through natural gas boilers or even burning the wood like you do to make, plywood or materials like oriented strand board that replaces plywood in America. No smokestack, all electric. Let's not give the carbon back while we manufacture. Let's sequester all the carbon in the material so we can lock away carbon inside the walls and roofs of effectively homes. So that's Plantd.
So the opportunity statement is clear. What are the challenges with this?
Everything is the challenge. The challenge is, it's crazy. The challenge is, and the reason why I say it's crazy is because you start with the fact that there's no supply chain for your material, right? It's not like you're saying, let's go use, what would be? Well, we're not using wood, right? We're not using where there's a very established supply chain. There's actually no commercial supply chain for this material. No one grows it. We have to figure out how to grow it commercially because no one's doing that. So we have to have a tissue culture lab. We have to have our own greenhouses. We have to have an entire agriculture team. We have to figure out how to do this. And then we have to go convince farmers to grow it for us commercially. So we're doing that. And then, which is challenging, right? Then we have to have a team that can build a production press, effectively like this machine that can press this material very, very thin and very, very strong. And no one's built a press like this in America in probably 50 years. So we have to go figure that out from scratch. And so really the challenges are operationally building a vertically integrated, very company that can do this. And we've raised money as a startup. We've raised millions of dollars, but for the mission and the companies we compete against, they have massive war chests, right? So we're doing this, right? Not on a dime. We're not bootstrapping, but as lean as possible. And then you have to convince, of course, the market that you have something better than what they use today. So challenging business, very exciting, and we've had some real success with it. I mean, we're only 4 years old, but we did get the largest home builder in America, a company called D.R. Horton, to come in. They put a little bit of investment into the company. They gave us an order early on, which was incredible for helping our trajectory. And just this past fall, they gave us an order for 10 million panels, which is a massive, massive order. It's about 90,000 new single-family houses. So it's certainly helped our trajectory and our acceptance by the market, the fact that the largest builder, publicly traded company, is very supportive and excited about what we're doing.
Amazing. So, so when did Supercool happen? Was it just after this, or maybe let's first talk about the motivation behind storytelling and how we engage audiences, for climate action, which is essentially one of the motivations for this podcast. So we're very keen to hear your thoughts on it as well as the Supercool story.
Yeah, thank you for that. So uh, there's probably been two themes throughout my career in sustainability or working on climate solutions. One certainly is entrepreneurship. I get very excited about building new ventures, new businesses, new media properties, whatever it might be. And then the other is communicating. And I think too, Carmen, that probably goes back to why I was thinking about a career in foreign service in diplomacy 30 years ago, because that exchange of information, having the empathy to understand where the person you're trying to communicate with, what's important to them, what's on their minds, and finding the way to bridge that gap, to communicate what you want them to know in a way where that can be heard and received. I mean, that's really the heart, I think, of great storytelling. It's the heart of great business communication. And I think when it's done well, of course, you create magic, right? You create movements, you create wonderful brands, and you can get people from a sustainability perspective, probably most fundamentally, you can move them from a place of fear or apathy or disinterest to a place of agency and feeling that they can take meaningful action and hope and optimism. And that's really been very important to me to work in that regard and try to play a role.
Josh, I love
Interesting.
your optimism, your spirit, your energy, and I think it's really coming through your communication style. Now, something that we always ask to our guests is, can we really do good while we are doing well? So how we can match sustainability and profitability? And talking to other entrepreneurs, what would be your advice there?
So I fundamentally believe that the best and to my view, the only businesses worth working on are businesses where you fundamentally do good and do well, and they are inextricably linked. The clearest expression of that is, for me, is Plantd, right? Because Plantd really was, okay, the more we can sell these panels, the more we are literally making homes carbon negative, right? We are literally turning homes into a carbon sink. So the more builders go build with the materials we're providing them, the more good we're doing for the planet and the more money we're going to make in the process. And so it's always what I look for. I think there's very obvious places today, or very maybe obvious is the wrong word, but very clear, apparent places where we see that really manifesting. If you look at electric cars or micromobility or e-bikes, which I know are exploding all over Europe, certainly solar, wind, right? All of these businesses.
Talking about China and the two-wheelers boom in China, by the way, is where most of the electric bikes in Asia are sold today, in a scale that probably in Europe and North America we don't realize yet, because we are focused too much on the four wheels. Like going back
Yeah.
on what you thought at the beginning of the episode.
Well, just also on that note, Carmen, I'd be interested to get your view. We had so on Supercool, on the podcast and media company I'm running today, on Supercool, recently we had on um, a gentleman named Maxime Renson, and he works for a French company called Upway, like
Yes,
UPWAY. Oh, you know Upway.
I see.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
So Upway is a reseller of e-bikes, right? Now, this is same thing, right? This is a business. The more that business can scale and grow and be profitable, the more it's working in the circular economy to take used bikes or bikes that haven't sold and make them more accessibly priced to new audiences and new customers and push them into the market. It does a lot of other wonderful things as well as a re-commerce engine. Like, I didn't know this in America. If you buy a popular e-bike offline, a company like Electric or Aventone, these are our popular brands, and you don't like it and you want to return it to Electric or Aventone, you're actually returning it to Upway. They're the re-commerce engine for these other brands that lets them focus on what they do well. And so it just goes to the point of you can find really innovative solutions that can be wonderful, fast-growing businesses and also be very good for the planet.
And Josh, that's great. So we're talking about innovation, how we can link to an unsolved problem that you can still see in the sustainability part, or still as a big challenge, or something that we underlooked in this space.
Yeah, well, so I see it a couple of ways. I see like the work that you guys are doing, the communication piece. I think that still is a challenge for almost every industry. And here's what I mean. We see in the US more and more solar systems for homes being purchased with batteries, right? That's happening pretty quickly. But yet it's such a small percentage of the market for, right? Only, I don't know, 7 or 8% of homes in America have solar, and now fewer have storage. And so the question isn't like, well, do you make a better solar panel? Now maybe you still need to make a better battery, but the question really is, how do you communicate and market and brand and get more people excited to purchase and adopt and use that solution, right? Like, every industry has that challenge. How do you sell more electric cars? How do you sell more e-bikes? How do you get more people to, what would be another example? I don't know, buy organic clothing. It's this adoption piece. So I really think that and that's not just about marketing. That's also about making the customer experience so incredible
Yes.
that you have right? You love doing something and you want to tell all your friends.
It's how you buy. It's not what you buy. Basically, what you're saying. It's not just what you buy. It's the
That's right.
how is extremely important. Yeah.
So I talked to this company on our podcast recently called Sunrun. Sunrun is the largest publicly traded home solar company in America. And the Mary Powell, the CEO, said to me, she said, we are thinking more and more about this customer journey. We're trying to give people more trust and confidence that when they purchase solar panels for their house, it's expensive, that they're gonna show up on time, they're gonna be installed properly, and the whole thing is gonna fit right. So in America, our biggest delivery pizza brand is called Domino's, and they have this thing where you order online. It's called the Domino's Pizza Tracker, right? And it's like, your pizza's in the oven, your pizza's here, your
Yeah.
pizza, right? So she said to me, she's like, we've literally taken the Domino's Pizza Tracker for solar installation, right? Like, we're building this into the app, so it's just as delightful as a consumer to track your pizza, to track your solar. And so she's really thinking about that process, right? What is it like to engage with our product, and how do we make it really wonderful? I think for people who are entrepreneurs, if they're thinking about the future, every industry still needs more solutions. But if you can look at an industry and say, okay, I see a solution, it's like in this industry, how do I think about making that easier and more wonderful for people to adopt? There's probably businesses to build around that, and it's definitely skills that are in demand.
It's I heard that the biggest Domino's subsidiary is actually it's India subsidiary. And so when I was growing up, there used to be this thing where they would say 30 minutes or free. So if the pizza is not at your doorstep
Right.
in 30 minutes, it's free. And now, many years later, now that quick commerce and everything's expanding so much, people refer to this way of business as the Domino's model. That's how
Right,
popular it
right,
is. As
right.
we come to the close of this episode, Josh, our audience would be very interested to know where they can find content that you produce or the podcast that you run. Tell us a little bit about where they can basically find you.
So the best place to find us, of course, on any platform, but you can find Supercool on our website, which is getsuper.cool. You'll find the podcast. You'll find our weekly newsletter where we go deeper into subjects. Um, we're on all social channels. I tend to personally be most active on LinkedIn. That's where we're probably sharing the most content today, LinkedIn, Instagram, but really engaging with audience on those channels. So I'd welcome getting in touch with anyone who's listening, and you can certainly find us there.
Absolutely, that's great. So I really loved this chat, and I know Carmine did as well. I learned a lot about. I mean, what I took away basically was how all these early motivation in things that you do and see can really lead to different things that you do. I guess, Josh, you found some connection through the question that Carmine was asking of your motivations of seeing things getting built in China and then leading to things like Plantd and then Supercool. So great episode, and I want to thank you for your time for joining us on this episode, and hopefully we'll be able to chat at another time on this podcast or another platform. Josh, thank you.
Rishi, thank you, and Carmen, thank both of you. This has been a wonderful conversation. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Rishi.
To our audience, we obviously can be found on Sustainability Forward on all major podcast platforms such as Spotify, YouTube, and Apple. On LinkedIn, we are under the banner Sustainability Forward, the podcast. You'll get all episode details there. You can find us by Googling as well. We usually show up on the first page. Thank you very much for joining. Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Carmine.
Thank you.